Well, good to know what we have to do. It is 7
That's where I'm
o'clock.
plugged in right there.
7 o'clock on this Monday morning. It is Ken and Deb here getting ready to live stream on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter. It's the mid-morning show coffee break. You can join us there. Also, we're talking about success today. What would you say is God's definition of success? And do you know somebody or that you've admired from afar or just recognized somebody in Christendom who has demonstrated God's version of success?
Our phone number is 800-221-9356. Those qualities that make for a successful person in God's eyes, what are they?
Yeah, so let us know. Again, get a hold of us, 800-221-9356. Here's the Sidewalk Prophets. It's called Keep Making Me on Moody Radio. Good morning from the Word to Life. Happy Monday.
Yeah, a little frog in my throat. Tell him to get
Well,
out of there.
It's Kermit the Frog with a frog in his throat. So, how was your weekend? Good?
Yeah, it was a good weekend. Went to the Quad City Prayer Breakfast
Oh,
on
yeah.
Saturday.
Good.
The speakers were great on that, and wonderful fellowship, food. It's a nice time.
Yeah.
It was great being with people again.
Yeah.
You know,
You said it was packed, too,
it
right?
was. There were a lot of people,
Wow.
so it was a well-attended event. And yeah, how about you? What'd you do this weekend?
Chased some chickens around and, did some stuff like that with the chickens. And, just pretty much did that all day Saturday. And then just church was a busy day. Just a lot of stuff going on there. And prepared for lesson for our small group last night. And that was pretty much Sunday.
Yep. So your weekend went
Oh,
just
yeah, I was telling you, I talked to my wife last night. I said, where did the weekend go? I go, it's just like gone. It's so busy. But, yeah, one of these days, have a break. That's what winter's for, right?
Yes, that's true. Maybe you will have a little extra moments in winter. You can sit and relax a little bit.
Yeah, I
But this
hope
is
so.
a busy time on the farm, it sounds
It
like.
is. Yeah, it is. And I know there's a lot of folks, a lot of farmers that are harvesting and, busy time. And so it is a busy, busy time. So, I would just say to people, if you frequently drive out in the farmland area, just be watchful for the farm vehicles.
Yeah, I did notice they were out the other day.
Yeah, they do travel slower and, be patient. They're trying to get their jobs done and they're not trying to get in your way. They're just trying to get their jobs done. So
Right,
just be
right.
patient.
It's a good reminder.
Yeah.
Patience. That's a good thing for a successful person in God's eye.
Yeah,
Somebody that's patient, somebody that is long-suffering,
right? Yeah,
doesn't fly off the handle right away.
right? Not a hothead.
Not a I had some other, like generous. I think of a successful person as being a generous person, someone who is so willing to give of themselves or, the things that they have. They're willing to share.
Sure, thinking of others before themselves. That's great. So what about you? What do you think is God's definition of success? Maybe an attribute that comes to mind for you. And do you know anybody like that? Or it could be a national person, anything like that. So, yeah, make a comment here. Sidewalk Prophets and Keep Making Me on Moody Radio at 7:04. Good morning. It is Ken and Deb here. So we've been talking about success, talking about what does it mean in God's eyes to be successful, and maybe you know someone like that.
Our phone number is 800-221-9356.
All right, and so I think Laura's on the line with us this morning. Morning, Laura.
I just want to say this. I originally was going to call you to talk about or to share about someone, as you guys have been sharing today, that person who just, to me, is so successful in God's eyes. And then you had Mary on. And what I would say to you is this, or I would say to everyone who's listening, Mary is right. I mean, Mary is just absolutely square on because I've been through this 3 times. And there's no three times as a charm, really, at least not in our eyes, but it was in God's eyes. And everything she said is so true. And the number one piece is that as difficult as everything is, we need to keep our focus on God. We have no idea what or why, and it leaves you with no words, especially if you have a family. I mean, in my case, I did, my husband and our daughter, but the whole thing is that God has, as Jeremiah 29:11 tells us, a plan and a purpose for our life.
Amen.
And so when I was listening to her, everything that she said, everything, it just fit with everything I went through. And I think about so many people, this is a different time because I went through it when our economy was falling apart and there were no jobs. There was nothing. There was absolutely nothing. And here's where my shout out is to this amazing person that I think is a success. My dear friend Sharon. She is such a prayer warrior. Her life, I mean, literally, she eats, sleeps, and breathes Jesus and the love that God has given her and the life that God has given her. And she's been through a lot because she truly is a widow and an orphan. But she had an amazing life with her husband, Ed. But the cool thing is that when this happened to me, her words to me were, oh, my goodness, what has God got in store for you? You're a little too happy for what's going on. And yet she knew that God had an amazing place for me. And what Mary said about staying close to God is so huge because if we don't, then we will never hear him. We will never see what God wants us to do. And when I hear her and the words that she said, staying close to God, she never thought she would write a book. Well, the last thing in the world I wanted to do at age 56 was go back to school. I was like, are you kidding, God? No way, I'm not doing that. And I fought him on it, which, of course, we all know we lose that battle. It is a losing battle. But I can tell you, as I shared with my daughter recently, our walk-in closet holds a lot of secrets. And I many times spent nights crying face down, God, why would you do this? But in all of that, in telling God, like Mary says, in telling God how we feel and what we are going through, he also shows us, this is why I'm doing this. This is where you need to go. You need, and number one, to step out in faith and do what you would least expect. And when you do, God opens doors that you could never imagine. So, as you guys know, I did go back to school. It took longer than I wanted it to, but again, in God's time, not Laura's. And I got a job, and I love the group I work with, and I'm doing work that I love to do, but this is not how I plan things at all.
Right.
But I just would just encourage those right now. I think of so many families who are struggling, and another piece that she said was, those of you who know about people who are struggling and you don't know exactly what to do, the first thing to do is to ask them, and many of them will say, oh, I'm good, I'm okay. Then surprise them. We were surprised. We were surprised by gifts that we just monetary and otherwise that we never expected. And then the other thing that God does for you is he opens opportunities for you to serve. Because let's face it, when we get our eyes off ourselves and on others, then even the situation we are in becomes so much less dire. We don't think that way until we take our eyes off our situation and put our focus, number one, on Christ and on the job Christ needs for us to do, because we become that example that God wants us to be. And so I thank you guys I thank Mary for what she did, and I thank you guys for sharing that, because it is a horrible experience to go through. It's very devastating personally, but God will bring you through it. His glory will be done. but we have to allow that, and we have to allow ourselves to see where and what God wants us to do. So,
Yeah.
That's good.
That is
Thanks,
good.
Laura.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you so
Laura.
much for calling.
you're welcome.
Hey, for those that are joining us now, can you guys kind of elaborate what the conversation you had with Mary was about?
Yeah.
Sure.
We talked with her about her experience of being laid off not once but twice.
Right.
And she was a single mom, and really how God helped her through and actually gave her a new purpose. She had no idea that she was going to start writing books and speaking on this subject. But she has a new book, Help for the Laid Off, Mary Carto, and that's who we talked with. And, you know, she just gives advice for people that are in that situation, which there are millions of people in that situation right now in our nation. So just met a young man at the prayer breakfast. He was at our table.
Yeah.
Has, I think, 3 kids. And he's been laid off and looking for work since March.
Wow.
And we prayed for him as a table. Somebody had invited him to the event. And so...
there's a lot of people that are out of work right now or changing jobs.
Right.
And doing something completely different. A friend of mine who's been doing the same job, I don't know, 20 years. And during this time, he got laid off and didn't know when he was going to go back. And then all of a sudden he found out he's not going back. And so he had to change completely his job. And he's getting through it. It's just different. It's hard, you know. So.
I mean, that's what this young man said. He said, I'm just, you know, living one day at a time, trying to make it with my family.
Right.
And support my family. And
wow, it's tough.
It is. It's a hard season to go through. We've been through it.
Yeah.
As far as, you know, I've had my husband. Husband been laid off a couple times too. So know what that's like. And so, you know, there's hope. And in fact, if you're in that situation right now and you could really use this book, we'll go ahead and give that way shortly here.
Yeah. And then she also has other books for prayers for those that are laid off, I think, and other things like that too. But she just really has a heart for those that have been, you know, have found themselves without a job and that lostness that you feel.
Right.
You know, there's still that feeling in your stomach that I can remember, that feeling.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah, what are we going to do next?
Yeah, I mean,
there's kind of a fear right off the bat of such uncertainty.
Yeah, that's right. So anyway, that's kind of the gist of what Mary was talking about. And then, of course, Laura has experience with that, and as well as just somebody in her life was really an encourager to her. So that's a pretty cool story.
Hey, Joe, thanks for listening in and kind of sharing your story, too. He said having Mary back a few times later in the morning in the future would be a great thing. What she shared this morning is something I wish I had years ago when I was laid off for over a year.
Wow.
Wow. Thanks. Thanks, Joe. And thanks to everybody who is also sharing with us about success and what it looks like in God's eyes. Like Heidi said, humbleness.
Yep. Melinda said obedience and faithfulness. That's great. That's Michael W. Smith and Waymaker at 7:13. And you know, God is a waymaker.
Yes.
Even when we don't know what that way looks like, He wants us to trust Him. He wants us to trust that He has it under control. Nothing is, snuck up on Him and surprised Him. He knows everything. He just wants us to trust. And that's a hard thing to do sometimes when we're, like Mary was talking about this last hour about being laid off. And not, it hitting you out of the blue like that, you kind of feel like you've been kicked in the stomach.
Right.
And you don't quite know how to handle it at first because that fear sets in. But yeah, He wants us to turn to Him.
And I really like what she said after she went through it the first time. The second time, she had the experience of knowing God walked her through the first time, cared for her needs.
Yeah.
And she could rest a little bit easier because she knew He'd been faithful. She'd seen that faithfulness before.
Right.
And
now she's helping others.
And now she's helping others.
Right.
And so there is always hope. Don't give up.
Right.
There's always hope, and God will bring you through whatever circumstance you're in, whatever trial, whatever storm. He's right there with us.
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that he is with us,
Right.
to me, is just the biggest comfort, that he's not going to leave us out there by ourselves.
Yeah. And maybe somebody has helped you through a difficult time. They've showed those characteristics of success from God's perspective. And maybe somebody has come into your life that you'd like to say, hey, I just like to say thank you to a guy. It doesn't have to be a specific name if you don't want to, but just somebody that really exhibits the characteristics of success from God's perspective. Let us know, 800-221-9356. So on a lighter note, Cubs are in the playoffs.
I knew that was going to come up sometime during this little half hour. Go Cubs.
Well, they almost lost their game. I mean, not that they would have been out of the playoffs. It wasn't that, but they almost blew a 9-run lead yesterday. They were up over the White Sox 10-1, and then they let the White Sox come back.
Oh, that's a nail
And the
biter.
final was 10-8.
Hey, that makes for a good game, though.
Oh, sure.
You don't want to run away too much. I mean, that's just
Oh, no,
it's
you
so
do. Yeah, you
boring
do.
when it's a runaway.
No, it's not.
Give them a little hope. Give them a little hope before you squash their dreams.
I love it when it's a close game.
Well, you just have those close games there, Deb. I'll take the blowouts. So speaking of a blowout, the first game between the White Sox and the Cubs, I thought it was kind of humorous because they were up 10-0. And so the White Sox put out to pitch. I don't know if he was a outfielder or if he was just an infielder or whatever, but they didn't want to burn up their bullpen because of the playoffs coming up. So they put this guy out there who was pitching, and he was like throwing 60-mile-an-hour pitches, and these, because in the major leagues, they're throwing up near 100, right? And he's throwing this ball. It looked like he was lobbing it compared to what you would normally see. Well, then for the Cubs, Javier Baez gets up, and he normally hits right-handed. And all of a sudden, I looked, he's hitting left-handed. I go, wait, he's not a switch hitter. And they said, Javi's getting up, he's trying it left-handed. And he got a base hit. And I just went, that's hilarious. So they were having fun with it.
Yeah,
You know.
I like that. See,
So
that's the way games should be played.
now, wait a minute. You
It
just
should
said
be-
a close game.
Yeah, but it
And I
should
said
be
it was a blowout.
Fun and close.
I
It can
see.
happen.
Oh, I see.
I mean, right now, Jeremy and I are playing Words with Friends. And I would much rather it be a close game
Yeah.
than him just winning by 1,000 points.
No, I'm kind of good either way. Me with a massive lead, or as long as I'm in the lead, even
As
by a
long
little
as I'm
bit.
in the lead, it doesn't matter how much.
I haven't beat him yet, but I'm getting close. I'm like within striking distance.
Yeah, I'm
So
having
I
get
a
a
hard
good
time
word.
finding a move.
I have to give my brother Joe some props too.
Okay.
Though. The Sox are in the playoffs as well.
Oh, okay.
Because remember, I said last week this is the first time, or the third time in history that the Cubs and the Sox have both been in the playoffs the same year.
And you
so-
kind of mentioned, imagine an all Chicago World Series.
Yeah, I would love
Wow.
that. That would be awesome.
Wow.
That would be so
I
cool.
heard some folks talking. Even if it was, they won't play in Chicago.
Oh, really?
Even if it was a World Series for
Okay.
Chicago.
Where are they playing it at?
Someone said Arlington.
Oh. 7:19. Good morning, Ken and Deb here. Appreciate you being along with us on this Monday, and we're talking a little bit about being successful, and what you define being successful. And then we also had Mary
Carto.
Carto come on with us last hour talking about being laid off and finding jobs. We have a resource for you.
We do.
That you can find a job if you're looking for one.
It is. It's Job Watch. And
Yep.
you can find it right there on our website at moodyradio.org/Quad Cities. Click on the picture of people that says Job Watch.
Just look for the word Job Watch. Click on that.
Click on it, and you can see a whole bunch of jobs
Right.
that right now are available in the Quad Cities. People looking to hire. So
and they're all categorized,
right.
which is kind of nice.
Yeah.
So if you're in a particular field and you're looking for a job in that field, you can go to that category, find those jobs. Now, we do have for employers that want to advertise as well. That's free of charge.
And you can send those to us, those job openings to us at wdlm@moody.edu. So just give us a brief overview of what the job looks like and how people can apply or how they can get more information.
Yeah, pretty simple. Take advantage of it. If you want to text job to 800-221-9356, or you just want to go to the website, look for Job Watch at moodyradio.org/Quad Cities. Here's Chris Tomlin at 7:20.
Well, Heidi gave a shout out to her brother, TJ Drinkhall. Talked about. We actually talked about him before, and but she says he was the most humble, faithful, and courageous person I ever knew. And then she goes on to say, "I'm sorry, but there's something on my screen that's taking over here. Do you have that in front of you?"
I do.
Okay.
That he had a lot of serious issues in his life. He had basically Agent Orange veteran, and anyway, he was a minister at a truck stop in truck stop ministry in the Omaha area, and I got a chance to actually interview him once, and he was just a great, humble man who loved the Lord and wanted to see people come to know him, and he had a heart for truck drivers.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty cool.
That's neat. She said, I have his last message. 3 years passed, and so that's really neat.
Yeah, it is. Thanks, Heidi. Appreciate that. Hey, also, by the way, you were right, Jeremy. The World Series will be at, Global Life Field in Arlington, Texas Rangers field there. So that's where the World Series would be. So even if it was an all-Chicago World Series, it'd be in Texas, which would be weird.
That would be odd. Might be safer that way.
Probably, yeah. Wrap up our mid-morning show coffee break for this morning. We appreciate you being along with us. Keep in mind, we are starting Share on Wednesday, and so we will have, it's not necessarily the mid-morning show coffee break. We will be live streaming during Share as well, so keep that in mind. But, yeah, I hope you can join us again tomorrow morning for the mid-morning show coffee break at 7 o'clock. Have a great rest of your day.